What's up guys, Sci-Fi Guy 2094 here. Today I have a really good one for you. I'm going to be talking about Contact from 1997. This is a Robert Zemeckis film, and it stars Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey. So I checked this out on Blu-ray over the weekend. Just a single Blu-ray disc. Did not watch the special feature, so I'm just going to be talking about the movie itself today. Now, like I said, this takes place in 1997, and we're introduced to Ellie Arroway. Okay, so she's like this very adventurous kid. Her and her dad are living together, and they have this home radio that they make, and they basically try to reach out to other stations, right? Well, I don't know if it's like a homemade radio or if it's one they bought, but she's very curious, so they're always on the radio trying to contact different people. And one day they actually do, make contact with like somebody else with the radio. So, her dad is really proud of her, and she's very adventurous. She's very into just astronomy and things of that nature. So unfortunately, we're hit with a big tragedy in the beginning of this movie, and her father actually dies of a heart attack when she's only 9 years old. And then we fast forward to where she's an adult. She basically is in Mexico at this point, and she's got like this grant, and she's got like this funding to be a radio astronomer, basically. So those big satellites that are on the ground, these ones right here with the dishes, and then the little, I don't know, that's not the antenna, but whatever those things are. So she's got a ton of these things where she's doing her work in Mexico, but unfortunately she loses the funding for it. She basically has to pack up and go home. That's initially where she meets Matthew McConaughey's character, who is he's very faith-based, and she's very scientific. So he leaves her his number, but she doesn't call him. She ends up going back to the United States. She does get funding, and she basically sets up shop. It's like a few years later, but she sets up shop at this new place, and she's continuing to do the same thing where she's listening for different signals out in space. So she eventually comes across the Vega system, and she hears what she thinks is actual language, right? And this was actually a pretty significant part of the movie, because up until this, it was just people were like cutting funding. They weren't trusting her judgment, but somebody did take a chance on her, and they gave her the funding. And the reason this part is so significant is just because she was right about this being important work. Some people are like, it's not worth your time, it's not worth the money. But once she found the signal, that changed everything. It was a very great scene. It was just, she was so excited after all these years to finally get a signal from space, and her team was with her, and she's basically driving back to the station, and she's talking to them on the walkies, and she's trying to make sure that they record everything, and it's just so cool. I mean, it's just a little bit of audio, which again, it sounds strange, but it's a very impactful scene, so I really like that scene. So unfortunately, shortly after that, the government kind of comes in, and they're like, okay, well, we have to basically come and make sure that this message isn't something hostile, right? So they get all the best linguistic experts. They all come together, basically the U.S. government's kind of like overseeing everything that's happening now. Because I believe the government had leased out these radio satellites to Jodie Foster's team and the other scientists, right? So now the government's here and they're like overseeing it. They bring in all these linguistic experts, and they, along with Jodie Foster, try to decode this message. And strangely enough, the first video image, or rather video, that they sent back is it's like a video from like the 1932 or 33 something, basically whenever the Berlin Olympics were, right? So it's got Adolf Hitler giving this speech, right? And so then now people are like, oh shoot, so these radio waves that were basically, it was like the first broadcast, right, like 26 years ago or something, or at least it took 26 years to actually, for them to send the message back to Earth. So it was the first message they received, the aliens, right? But it took 26 years for it to get back to Earth. But now they're thinking, oh shoot, so these aliens are like evil because they sent a video of Hitler back. Whereas the scientific team is just like, well, no, not necessarily, because basically that message was sent out, it was broadcast, right, on Earth, and the aliens just took it and then they just sent it back. So we know that they got not the message because it wasn't sent to them, but they're just letting us know that, you know, they have broadcasts and they can communicate information by sending it back and forth. But then you have like the extremists that are like the white power guys, and they believe like Hitler's alive, and you know, they're crazy, and they see this as like a sign, right? And then you have the religious people that are like, oh man, like this is going to change our world fundamentally because, you know, we need God in our life. You know, we want God in whatever types of gods we believe in here on Earth. And these extraterrestrials are challenging our faith. So again, there's a lot of themes in here with faith, religion, and obviously like other beings. Could be higher powers. It could put us in like a little bit of a bind because, well, we have our own gods and beliefs, but now there's these other beings out there that are potentially more advanced, and, well, quite frankly, they could be superior to us. And that's why all these people on Earth are like, you know, causes some kind of I wouldn't say mass panic, but there's a lot of different aspects, a lot of different viewpoints from people. Some of the people are like, they're taking it all in stride, you know, they're just like, they've got these signs and they're like, alien abduction site, or please abduct me. So there's some people that are like, oh wow, it's aliens, that's so cool. And then people of the faith community are like, no, this isn't good because, you know, God is our God, and, you know, we're not going to have aliens becoming our God, and things of that nature. And then, of course, you have like the weird neo-Nazis that think like this is a sign that Hitler's coming back or something. So, very interesting. The aliens actually end up sending them more messages. These just huge, what looks to be like data sheets, right? So they have to kind of decode them and figure out like, what are these messages? And they actually figure out that they're blueprints, right? So the president's like, well, we don't know what these blueprints are. Like, they could be sending us a machine, blueprints to a machine that we build, and then they just, you know, they transport themselves to Earth and invade us, you know what I mean? So he's very skeptical. I believe it's James Woods who is, I think James Woods is the actual president in this movie. If he's not the president, he's definitely somebody like high up, like in the president's cabinet. Um, Angela Bassett is in this movie. She's kind of like an advisor to the president, so she does a great job. And yeah, you have all the military people, the generals. They're like, oh yeah, like we don't know what this machine is that they want us to build. And you know, they end up deciding that, well, it's kind of worth the risk, right? Like not knowing fully what it is, but they eventually decode a couple layers of this data, and they see that there's like a pod and it's got a seat for a single person. So they kind of deduce that, oh well, it's not some doomsday machine or anything like that. It's just it's a machine for somebody to be transported somewhere, potentially, right? But basically, they have this entire hearing among not the United Nations, but it's kind of like their own little committee that they put together. That's got like representatives from all over the world, and their duty is to find the best person who can represent Earth when they first make contact with the aliens, right? So they go through this series of questions, and Matthew McConaughey asks Jodie Foster if she believes in God. And basically, I mean, she kind of dances around the question, kind of like a politician would. And, well, they basically come to the conclusion that, yeah, she doesn't really believe in God. But he brings up a good point that about, like, 90% of the people on Earth believe in God or some type of higher power. So his question is, well, if you're representing Earth, why should you go to represent Earth as a whole if you don't believe in God? And 90% of the people on Earth do believe in some type of God. So I like that hearing. It's very tense because they're trying to vet all these people to see who should best represent Earth when first making contact with these extraterrestrial beings. So, yeah. Now, I don't want to get to the I don't want to get to the third act because that's the really, really, really good part. And of course, if you're watching this far, you've already heard a lot about this movie. But that last part I'm going to keep out for now. The part about the machine being built, and then what actually happens when she goes into the machine. So I gotta say, it's very intriguing. There's a lot of cool special effects, and I just think it's a really great experience during the kind of like the climax of the film when she actually gets into the machine, and then what's revealed when she finally makes contact with the aliens, or what isn't revealed. So that is Contact. It is by Robert Zemeckis. I really like this movie. It's definitely one of those sci-fi movies that's more narrative and detective driven, as well as using real scientific principles such as like theory of relativity, things like that. But definitely a good movie. I would highly recommend this. If you like things like Arrival by Denis Villeneuve, then I think you'll really like this movie as well. You know, I can't believe I hadn't really heard of this one, because this one is real good. If I had to give this a rating, I would give this a solid 8 out of 10. It's intriguing. It's definitely something that it gets your brain working, right? You're going to be hearing all these scientific principles, and then you're going to want to go study them yourselves. You're going to want to go look at different star systems. And this movie specifically, they're in the Vega system. And of course, there's many different star systems, constellations, there's Orion's belt, all these things. So now I'm kind of interested in like the Vega system. Now I'm going to go on Google and trying to find out what the Vega system is. just out of curiosity. I mean, obviously there won't be any aliens contacting me, but hey, I'm just curious. But anyway, that's my review for Contact. Solid 8 out of 10. It's definitely something you should check out if you're into mystery, sci-fi, detective thriller movies.